This is Israeli Technology Founders Speak, a podcast of conversations with successful Israeli high-tech and biotech entrepreneurs. With your host, Avraham Hermon. Ilay Marom is the co-founder and COO of Nanose Medical, an Israeli biotech startup that has made a portable device that detects diseases without invasive procedures. Their electronic nose quickly analyzes breath samples, identifying specific chemical compounds exhaled by patients. Through a combination of advanced nanotechnology and AI, the system offers rapid disease detection in a single breath. Avraham sat down with Ilay in the offices of Nanose Medical to discuss how they came up with the idea, how they got funded, how they deal with a startup during wartime, building a team, tips for startup founders, and much more. This podcast is a creation of J.M.B. Davis Ben David, an intellectual property law firm serving clients around the world. You have great innovations. We keep them safe. It's not enough to just have a great startup idea or innovation. If you don't legally protect your innovations, products, and brand, anyone can claim them as their own. We keep your great innovation secure. Learn more by going to jmbdavis.com. That's jmbdavis.com.
So I'm sitting with Ilay Marom, the Chief Operating Officer, COO, and co-founder of Nanose Medical. Let's talk a little bit about what problem Nanose Medical solves.
MASLD, or accumulated fat in the liver, which is also known as MASLD, has been affecting 40% of the worldwide population, which means that basically it can be any one of us. But more importantly, it leads to much more severe conditions like cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, chronic kidney disease, and of course liver cancer. Well, fact is that 83% of the MASLD patients are underdiagnosed, which means that most of the people that have it don't even know that they have it.
That's a lot. I mean, you're saying this is a serious disease and there are a lot of people walking around with it and they just don't know that they have it.
Exactly. And the reason is very simple. There's no symptom until it's very, very late. And second, there is no suitable solution for screening of MASLD or MASLD.
Mm-hmm.
So we imagine a device that basically can screen at the primary care, evaluate the risk for having MASLD, not only evaluate the risk, but also stage it. And therefore, you can manage the disease and avoid all of the more severe conditions.
So you have a device that does early diagnostic of fatty liver, essentially.
Yeah,
Okay.
and staging.
And staging. So understanding what stage it's in so that you could properly diagnose it and treat it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sounds
Correct.
interesting. You want to tell us a little bit about how the device works?
Yeah, so basically it's AI-driven sensing technology. We developed a sensor array that interacts with a group of different groups of biomarkers that we emit from our breath. Basically, you breathe to the device, connected to our sensor array. When our sensor exposed to the biomarker, they change their electrical behavior. So we capture these electrical changes using pattern recognition algorithm in order to classify the risk for having the disease.
Mm-hmm. So I saw your device at the convention in Jerusalem a few weeks ago. And it's not this massive thing. It's something that you envision you could have, you said, at primary care. So a person can go to his doctor and can just breathe into this device?
Exactly. The game changer about our technology is that it can be used everywhere, basically. Our dream is that it would be at the primary care and the physician will have the results of the risk for having the stage of advanced fibrosis or early stage of fibrosis when the patient already arrived to the clinic.
Okay, sounds like a fascinating idea. Can you tell me about where it was born, how it was invented, and then how did you become involved in it?
Absolutely. So the technology was invented and developed over a decade in a Technion institution by Professor Hossam Hayek. He came up with this brilliant idea of using nanoparticles as chemiresistors to interact with those biomarkers and to create a pattern recognition algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Hossam approached a dear friend, business partner, whose name is Imat Elhami, and he came to me and to Orit and to Dr. Osnat Selatavor, and together we started the company with the purpose of commercialization of this sensing technology.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned a little bit about nanoparticles. For our listeners who may not be at the cutting edge of technology, maybe explain a little bit what's behind the nanoparticles and how the sensors work.
What I can say, because part of it is of course confidential, but what I can share is that the idea is having a nanoparticle which is deposited on electrodes, and then we have different type of sensors. So it's not one kind of sensor, it's a sensor array. Every type of sensor interact with different group of biomarkers. And
biomarkers for our listeners are
volatile organic compound.
So these are compounds that are going to be in someone's breath.
Yeah.
And they're sensed, and then these are determined to have some sort of connection to disease, the amounts of how much there are or the presence of these molecules, right?
Exactly. Every disease changes your metabolic pathway, and you emit different composition of volatile organic compound from your body, especially from the breath. The breath contains about 1,500 different volatile organic compound. Some of them are biomarkers. Basically, the idea was proven by using GCMS technologies. However, these types of technologies are, the devices are massive, they're big, they're costly, they need professional operator, and of course, they are not suitable for point-of-care screening. You need to send it to external lab. However, these technologies have already proven and shown that they can identify several diseases, including MASLD, but it's not suitable for screening.
I see.
The game changer that we became, the uniqueness of our approach, and this is the way I like to explain it, is by giving an analogy of smelling cinnamon. Because cinnamon is composed from different types of molecules.
Right.
And when we smell cinnamon, we do not recognize each molecule and the concentration of each molecule. What happens is that those molecules interact with our olfactory system. Then the nerve system generates an electric signal. Our brain processes the electric signal. And then we ask the next person next to us, what is this smell? And they tell us it's cinnamon. And for the rest of your life, you know that the electric signal that was generated by your nerve system is correlated to cinnamon. And it doesn't matter whether it's in a meat dish, chicken, cake, you still recognize the pattern of cinnamon. So our sensors are working very similar in a sense that we expose our sensors to those biomarkers, generate an electric signal, process the electric signal, and then use pattern recognition algorithm. It's a learning system where we provide the system with electric signal of patients who are already diagnosed with advanced fibrosis, that were diagnosed by the gold standard, which is liver biopsy, and those who have mild fibrosis, and those who don't have this disease. And then we generate 3 different groups, and using a pattern recognition algorithm to correlate between the electric signal directly to the disease without even having to know what are the concentration of the biomarkers. And this unique approach has allowed us to bring this device to the primary care at a very cost-effective manner and to enable screening for those patients.
So, like I mentioned before, you're the chief operating officer and you're also co-founder. And we met earlier, your other co-founder. How did you guys connect and how do you divide the responsibilities in running the company?
Orit, the CEO of the company, which is one of the founder, is actually my first business connection ever, because she's my mother. So we met, of course, when I was born. And since I finished my service at the Navy for over 8 years, then Orit started the company together with the business partner that I mentioned earlier, Imat El-Hami, together with the inventor, Professor Hussam Hayek, and with our CSO, Dr. Osnat Tavor. And as soon as I finished my service, I simply joined the team to start this company. I think that what happened actually is that I was so excited about this technology and the potential that it has that I really asked to help with whatever I can. And then Osnat, our CSO, asked me if I can manage the engineers, the subcontractors who designed the first prototype. So while I managed them voluntarily, by the way, I wasn't employed yet. She approached me and told me, listen, you've been super helpful for me. I can work on other stuff. Please stay full time with us, be our first employee, and help me to manage the subcontractor engineer. So that's how we started.
Wow. So that seems pretty rare to have a mother and son team running a company, but I guess it happens.
Yeah, it has the advantages and disadvantages. I guess the biggest advantage there is that there's a huge trust. And
Sure.
the trust really helped to build great companies. The disadvantage, of course, is that every Shabbat dinner, we were tempted to discuss work and not being part of the family, but that's another story.
Okay. So talk about your investment a little bit. Where's your investment from?
So since the company started 5 years ago, we raised a total of about $10.5 million. $6.5 million were raised by equity, $4 million from a private investor, additional about $1.5 million from a fund from the UK, and the rest is from the founders, including the Technion institution itself, who is not only part of our founders, but also they provided with funds to the company. Additional about $4 million we raised through non-dilutive grants, 2 grants from the European Union, including the Prestige EIC Transition Grant, including a consortium grant which is called Lucia, and 1 grant from the Israel Innovation Authority. And the last one is a grant that we received from Google, which they also support us both not only with cloud credits and supporting us with the development of the algorithm and the cloud migration, but also they provide us with actual funds that helped us a lot to complete the initial studies for Muscled.
Okay, wow. You had mentioned the Technion, so that's one of Israel's big universities. Can you talk a little bit about the whole process of licensing technology from a university to form a spin-off company, how that process with the intellectual property, how that works?
That's a very important question because, first of all, I think it is important to understand that academic research is not equal to commercialization. So when something is proven in the academia, it doesn't mean that it can be instantly commercialized. There's a lot of work to do in the background. And when you license such technology, it is extremely important to make sure that the licensing is exclusively to your company, and not that the IP was not shared with other entities. And of course, regarding the timeline, that it's perpetual and there's no time limit for the IP. Something very unique that we did with our agreement with the Technion is that comparing to more general agreements, we do not provide royalties to the Technion, but rather we made them partners, actual partners of the company. And therefore now we have mutual interest that the company will succeed, because they actually, they don't have royalties, but they own some of the company. So this has been a very unique approach that we had, and it's been very helpful.
So you mentioned patents and intellectual property, and you said something about a secret. So there are various ways of protecting your ideas. You know, I came into this office. One of the things I see on the wall is here, right behind you. The best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas. So you guys have ideas. You have lots of ideas. How do you use intellectual property to protect your ideas and to forward your business strategies?
Well, first of all, it's very important to always be on the top of your heels when you receive the IP from the academia, not to think that you're all covered, you're all set, and you can leave this, I would say, the IP strategy and not deal with it. Because things evolve in the market, things changes, and it's very important to keep monitoring and looking for other ways to protect your IP.
I guess also your product is evolving as time goes on, since you take it from the university into the company.
Absolutely. So out of 7 patents that we have, 6 of them are licensed by the Technion. 1 patent is our own. And we already have 4 patent pendings under the name of our company to cover other aspects of the technology. Of course, it is also important to mention that our sensing technology is very difficult, if not impossible, to reverse engineer. The way that we produce the nanoparticles and deposit them on a sensor, it's a very unique approach. It's part of our secret sauce. And therefore we decided not to patent it, but to protect it by trade secret within the organization. It's part, of course, of our IP strategy. Because if we patent it, we have to give it away. So it's the way that we produce our sensors is more or less like the recipe of Coca-Cola.
I see.
Of our company.
So you have a combination of trade secret and patent protection to make sure that you stay ahead of your competitors.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Israel. We're sitting here in Netanya, along the coast of Israel. What influence does being in Israel have on Nanose Medical?
Israel is, we all know, is the startup nation. Even within the biotech, I heard that Israel has the highest biotech startup per capita in the world. I think there are 1,800 different biotech startups, and this is very unique for Israel. I think the ecosystem here is amazing in that sense.
So I have a lot of work still to go on my podcast to make sure that get to more people.
About 1,750 left.
Exactly.
But anyway, so on one hand, the ecosystem is extremely supportive, including the subcontractors, employees. Everything here it's been amazing. Obviously, what has been affecting us lately is the war.
Mm-hmm.
Back in October 23, I think like many other companies, because of the cycle of 2021, we were on our fundraising process. I was in a roadshow in Germany, or it was in a roadshow in Japan. We were looking to raise an additional round of funds, and we were in deep due diligence with two major investors from Europe. And then when everything happens, of course, we came back from our roadshow. A few weeks later, we received email. I will never forget it, from one of the firms saying that due to geographical strategy changes, they decided to step down from investing in our company, which was very devastating. But then we had the multiple success with the non-dilutive grants, especially first with the Israel Innovation Authority grant, that the Haravot Barzel grant that supported the companies during the war. And then Google came and matched their grant. And following that, we received the AC Transition grant, which really helped the company to stay on our feet. So this has been one part. The second part, of course, is that our head of software and engineering and myself, we found ourselves in the duty reserves. Luckily, our company is 70% female. So the reserves affected only me and my head of software. And of course, that when we went to the reserves, we had to adjust our timelines, adjust our expectations. Of course, the timelines became longer. But then what actually happens, which was extremely surprising, is that we managed to do things even faster. And the reason is that all other employees have really been stepping up when we were away. So they were working around the clock, I think 150%, in order to meet the original goals. And it actually helped us to accelerate our R&D, which was pretty amazing. I don't think it is unique to our company. I think it is unique to Israel, in a sense that we have this notion that when we have this kind of situation, everybody's stepping up, which was very, very amazing to see.
Can you talk about what your biggest hurdles are moving forward as a company?
I think, like most startups, biggest hurdle is related to funding. Because with unlimited amount of funds, of course, we can do everything faster and more efficient. As a startup, we are understaffed, obviously. We collect data today from 9 hospitals. We have thousands of breast samples that we already collected. And we have this massive amount of data that we already collected. And our software team is about 2.5 people that you have to manage the data, analyze it. I think, to be honest, the biggest hurdle is how to use the resources that we have to be in the market as fast as possible, because, of course, it's a race against time. Eventually, there will be a screening tool for MASLD or for lung cancer. So whoever gets it first will dominate the market, and we really want it to be us.
So you're mentioning now also lung cancer. So these are the two indications that you're looking at, MASLD and lung cancer. But do you see that there are competitors in the field that are working on similar technologies?
Yeah, absolutely. Today we're fully focused on MASLD and lung cancer. The lung cancer is, I would say, a little bit more of a longer process in terms of go-to-market strategy. With the MASLD, we expect by 2026 to be already in the market.
I see. Okay. That's soon.
Yeah. Of course, that As long as we collect the data faster and analyze it faster, we can or be in the market earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But this is our plans. With lung cancer, it would take, I would say, about 2 years or so. And yes, of course, there are competitors around there with similar technologies, different technologies. Therefore, it's very important today, the muscle screening and the lung cancer screening is more of a blue ocean. Whoever gets it first will probably get a big market share.
I see.
So this is very important.
Okay. What sort of tips do you have for founders who are just starting their company or on the beginning of their journey?
I think it's a little bit of a cliche, but I'll say it anyway because it is extremely important. I think that founding a company, it's not a linear line. It's a hell of a roller coaster. So you have so many ups and downs, and you have a lot of downs. As I mentioned earlier, when October 23rd came, when we were fundraising, and then we received this message from the big VC, we almost thought that our story is over. But we were so determined, so focused. We have a lot of faith in the technology. So we kept fighting. And in order to be a successful founder, I think this is extremely important, to be passionate about the technology, to be persistent, and to be able to survive the lows of the roller coaster.
Mm-hmm. Okay, those are important tips. And that was a year and a half ago, so it looks like things have turned for the better since then.
Absolutely.
So do you have any additional tips for startup founders that you'd like to share with us?
In addition to the importance of persistent and passion about the technology, I think one of the most important thing is building the right team.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say the right team, sometimes it's not the most experienced team, but it has to be, in my opinion, a team which is also passionate and persistent about the technology. Our team has been amazing, as I mentioned, stepping up. Our CTO, Dr. Omer Meroz, our chemical engineer, Noe Lifshitz, and our head of software, Gilad Feinberg, they have been just an amazing team in terms of the persistence and the passion about technology and the work. So I think it's even more important than an experienced team to have a team that can support you in that sense. So we're supporting each other on the down times.
Okay, that's very important. So you had mentioned that you see Nanose Medical already next year with a product on the market for your first indication. Where do you see the company in 5 years from now?
The vision is, and that's our hope, is that our device will be in every clinic, every physician's office, to be able to detect MASLD and lung cancer early and save millions of lives and billions of dollars for the healthcare system. You have other examples of screening devices like mammography, like PSA, like fecal test that save so many lives, a lot of money. And we want to be part of this ecosystem to be able to identify MASLD and lung cancer early and to save lives.
Okay, great. That sounds good. So thank you very much again for having me here in your firm. I'm happy to be here and to hear about your technology, and this looks like very promising. So it's great meeting you and talking with you.
Thank you so much.
That was Ilay Marom, the co-founder and COO of Nanose Medical. We hope you enjoyed this episode. There are many more to come. Do you have a great innovation or startup idea? We'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us by going to our website, jmbdavis.com. And if you go to jmbdavis.com/startup, you'll see we have a special site specifically made for startups to help startups protect their innovations. Please be in touch with us and find out how we can help you. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to bringing you the next episode.